Welcome to my program on preventing collection abuses. My name is Taeschner. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I put together this little video to try and help consumers out there not feel the pressure anymore of abusive collectors and to try and empower themselves when it comes to knowing the law and how one can get out of some pretty abusive practices if one just knows what to do. And I'm going to start off with a little story that happened to me this last year. October 29th, 2013, I had to go into Valley Medical Center for a prostate infection. It was on a Sunday evening, and I had no medical insurance. And I wanted to see a doctor to get a prescription so that my ability to urinate would continue and I wouldn't develop a kidney infection as a diabetic. I went into the ER, and of course when I got in there I saw a physician's assistant, not a real doctor. And Valley Medical Center in Renton, Washington is run by the University of Washington physicians. And so I was at their mercy. I was told by a young gal who came in with a clipboard that the cost of my ER visit would be $586. By the time I got a prescription in hand and it got into the pharmacy, it was over $800. Within a week of getting the bill, it was $2,000. And then I got a secondary bill in the mail for the quote-unquote emergency physicians, even though I didn't actually see a physician. I saw a physician's assistant. That was for another $200. So suddenly I was on the hook for a $2,200 hospital bill. And I couldn't get out of it. If I had waited another day, I'm certain I would have been in the hospital at $5,000 or $6,000 a day. Not counting tests, not counting other fees that are added on. And with this latest Obamacare law that's gone into effect that all Americans have to comply with, the cost for affordable health care insurance is anything but affordable. And so this opens the door for doctors not getting paid. It opens the door for hospitals having to turn to collection agencies to try and keep the bills paid if they can. And Americans throwing their hands up in the air and saying, I don't know what to do. Well, I'm here to tell you what you can and can't do. First of all, know in the state where you live what your rights are as a consumer. Believe it or not, in Washington State, there is a Washington State Consumer Protection Law. It's easy to look up on Google. Secondly, anytime that there's a debt and you're not disputing the validity of a debt, you as a consumer are protected under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the PL 95-109, which means the Public Law 95th Congress 109th Law, which was put into effect to end abusive practices when it comes to collections. Now, I myself have some pretty good experience with this because I worked not only as a collector for Seafirst Bank and Key Banks, but I also worked my way up to being a collections manager. I called to make payment arrangements with Valley Medical Center within a few days of getting my bill, and I talked to a lady named Susie, who happened to be in patient accounts, and I explained to her that I was still waiting to find out whether or not I would be covered under American Indian medical program because I'm part American Indian. After about 2 weeks of them placing my account on hold, I got back to them and explained that I had been denied coverage and that I had every intention of paying the bill. And my bill would be something that I'd have to stretch out over several payments, maybe for a year. Well, the lady there who's a patient advocate, Susie, said, that's fine. We can have you pay $160 a month over the next 9 months. And then you can do that without paying any interest or penalties if you pay it off within that time. And I said, great. Because I am working, I didn't qualify for charity care. And a lot of people are caught kind of in between that sandwich of, well, do I qualify under charity care or don't I? Well, if you make too much money, I guarantee if you make more than $15,896 in the state of Washington, A, you're not going to qualify for free Medicaid under Obamacare, and secondly, you're not going to qualify without having to pay something if you make above that amount. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, one of the things collectors do is they're given a list by their bosses and they're told to call people at least once a day at home And by law, we can't call, I say we as a former manager, cannot call a consumer more than 3 times in a week at work. Now, if the consumer says, I don't want any calls at work because I don't want to lose my job, at that point it has to be put in the collection notes, and the collector's not supposed to call at all. Now, I suggest as a consumer, whenever you talk to a collector, whether it's at the hospital or an outside agency, take notes, ask questions, say, who are you calling for? What is your name? Where are you calling from? Who are you trying to get a hold of? And what's the nature of your call? In other words, who, what, where, when, why, and how. Make sure you ask the tough questions, because you're going to be asked the same by the collector. It's the golden moment for the collector to, when having you on the phone, to get your updated home phone, work phone, mailing address, and any email or other contact information so that the collector can stay in contact with the debtor. Always say on the phone, I'm not disputing the validity of this debt. However, I do want to be treated fairly, and I don't want to be abused. And explain, I'm taking notes. Sometimes these collectors will even say, well, the call is being recorded for other training purposes. You have the right to say no. In the state of Washington, I don't want to be audio recorded. They're supposed to stop audio recording at that moment. Or if you agree and you say, yeah, you can audio record me, but I'm going to do the same with you, and they say, okay, then that's perfectly legal in the state of Washington. However, if neither side agrees to that, it's a cease and desist thing at that point. However, nothing prevents you from taking notes. And you can explain to the collector, I'm going to take notes. And if the collector's uncomfortable, then just ask to talk to a supervisor. But note everything, who you talk to, who the supervisor is, etc. A journal or daily notes is admissible in court if it comes down to that. Users are allowed to make payment arrangements with you, and they have to be reasonable and they have to be fair, meaning that a collector's not supposed to ask for an outrageous amount. Often they'll put you on hold to talk to a supervisor. That's okay. Keeping in mind that if you've made payment arrangements, the collector is obligated to put those arrangements in the collection notes. And I say that for a very good reason. I got a call from Valley Medical Center about 2 days after I made my first payment as arranged. And I was to make my second payment the next day. And I got the call about 3 in the afternoon, and I said to the collector, why are you calling me? I'm on the road. And the collector said, well, I have to call and get a first payment from you. I don't show that you've made any payments on your account. And I said, I'm sorry, but you better look more carefully at the notes. I have made a payment, and I've already made arrangements for payment with a patient advocate. Are you calling from the billing office? And the collector said, no, but I do work for Valley Medical. I said, at that point, are you a third-party collection agency? Have you been hired by the hospital to collect on this account? And the person said, no, which at that point was a lie. And I said to the person, well, if you're telling me a lie, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to take notes here, and I'm going to do a follow-up call, and I'm going to find out if it is, in fact, you who's collecting for the hospital, because I've already made arrangements, and somebody should have put something in the collection notes. Finally, the collector admitted, yeah, I'm an outside third-party agency calling you for payment. And I said, well, then you better note the account, because I do plan to call back. I waited a couple days, and I discovered that the manager who was at the hospital in the billing department had no idea that nobody had noted my account. And finally, after lying to me, also admitted that this was a third-party agency that the hospital had hired who had called me and had no idea that I'd even made a second payment on my account. At that point, I said, you cannot, by law, call me and harass me for payment when A, I'm not behind on my payments, and secondly, the collector threatened me with charging me interest and or sending it to an outside collection agency if I didn't pay, and adding on all kinds of fines and fees. And I said, the collector had no right to do that either. You guys have a serious training issue, and your collector should have taken notes, and your department should be talking with one another. I said, I'm going to ask you to reduce the bill on my account by $1,000. And the lady said, absolutely not. And I said, okay, well then I'm going to go for judicial remedy. I'm going to go down to the King County Regional Justice Center and I'm going to file a small claims action. I'm going to ask for $5,000 sanction against you per violation because A, you're not supposed to be calling a debtor if the debt is not in dispute and the debtor's made payments and is not behind. And secondly, you already promised you weren't going to charge me interest on this account if I paid it within 9 months. And now my bill shows that you've charged me $13.95. Each of those is actionable. The lady said, let me call you back. I let her sweat, and about 3 hours later she called me back, and I had a $1,200 balance remaining on my account. They reduced it by $591, and then they wiped the $13.95 interest fee off of my account. I was able to pay the account off just last week. The point here is it's going to cost the hospital more money to hire an outside attorney to defend themselves than it is to try and settle with the debtor, especially if they know they've done wrong. I told her all I'd have to do is get a small claims court action case number going, subpoena the collection notes by sending him a subpoena destucums as a pro se litigant, meaning filing it myself, pay the filing fees, and they were going to spend $350 to $500 an hour to hire a corporate attorney to defend a stupid mistake by a collector. And in knowing this, that empowers you as a consumer. If you have any questions and you want to contact me, my email is trashner@hotmail.com. That's TRASHNER@hotmail.com. Or call me at 425-247-8827. My goal here in making this video is to try and help consumers who aren't sure about what to do. I'm not an attorney, I'm not giving legal advice, but I can certainly suggest what you can do to try and better position yourself to defend yourself in such an action. And then if you'd like, you can share your stories with me. We can talk about success and how much you've saved and how much empowerment you felt by no longer being abused by collectors. So hopefully this video has done you some good. I'm Sean Taeschner, and I thank you for watching. Information on where you can find consumer protection law, both at the federal government level and the state level, please take a look at these documents. I found them on google.com, and you'll be able to as well. They're very empowering. And this is for Washington State. Make sure to check what your state laws are in regards to consumer rights with collection agencies.